So before starting the tutorial, I'm just going to increase the reflection on the floor so that you can see the reflection clearly, and it will help us to debug the reflection quicker. Also, one simple little trick: if you think that the viewport is lagging, then you can turn off this lights collection. All the real-time lights are inside this collection, so if I turn this off, then it wouldn't be rendered on the viewport. So yeah. Now in the previous video, I've told you guys that we can't have the bottom face of the couch reflecting here. That is because the screen space reflection is only takes into consideration of the things that is visible on the viewport. So to add these reflection, we need something different, which is called a reflection plane. So I'm going to go over to light probe and add in a reflection plane. Go over to this tab, and under the viewport display, click the show preview plane, and as you can see that there's a glitch happening. That's because both of them are on the same surface. So I'm going to move this plane just a tiny bit above the floor, and as you can see that the reflection is quite clear. Now I'm going to move this one right about here where the couch is, and as you can see we have the reflection. But you might be thinking that, okay, but it's like a mirror. That is because we turned on the show preview plane. I'm going to turn it off, and as you can see that we have the reflection fixed here. I did scale this down, but you can also scale it up to match this whole floor. But doing so, it's gonna take a lot of resources, and if you don't have a decent card, it's gonna lag on your viewport. So currently I'm gonna just stick with this small portion over here. Okay, I have a GTX 1050 Ti, so I won't go crazy with this reflection plane thing. Now if you have a weaker card than mine, then probably your viewport would be lagging too much because of this reflection plane. So what you can do is move this reflection plane onto a different collection. I'm going to name it as a reflection plane. And then what you can do is go over here and tick these two boxes. Then just untick this one. What it does is it disables the object to show in the viewport, but when you render this scene, let me quickly give you a quick render. I'm going to reduce the sample. You can see that the reflection is quite visible there. But if I turn this one off and this one on, then the render will be visible on the viewport, but not in the object will be visible on the viewport, but not on the renders. And as you can see, that there's not the proper reflection that we're getting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tick this and untick this one, and that way your viewport will be much more responsive. You can also do the same thing for the lights. So I'm going to turn on the light collection, and I'm just going to untick this viewport one so that the light won't be visible on the viewport, but when I render the final scene, it will be visible. So we added that reflection. Now I'm going to work on this reflection, because as you can see currently we don't have the reflection of the plate or the reflection of the book on this table. So to add that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift A, add in another reflection plane, and scale it down a little, move it up. Just turn on the preview plane for debugging purposes and move it so that it goes above the object like this. Then I'm going to turn it off, and as you can see we have the reflection of the book and also of this plate. Now I'm going to move this also to the reflection plane collection, and then I'm going to dissolve that as well. You might remember from the previous tutorial that we don't have the reflection on this window panels, but we have the outside reflection. That is because this is the reflection of this HDRI. So you don't need to do anything if you are getting the reflection from HDRI. But if you need the object to reflect on the glass panel, then you need to add another reflection plane. So I'm going to quickly add another one. Rotate it towards the y-axis 90 degrees, and make sure that this is pointing inwards and then I'm gonna move it up and scale it out. It's quite fine. And I'm gonna move it back a little, just like this. And now if I turn this thing off, as you can see, we have the reflection on the window panels. So move this one also to the reflection plane and turn everything on. This is the before and this is the after. Looking pretty cool, but there's also some glitches with the flow reflection. On the top of this table, you have the parallax on the reflection. You can see the trees are moving faster than these window panels, and that's how the reflection should be happening. As you can see that the reflection is not quite correct here, and this part over here is reflecting over here, which is not realistic. And also if I move the camera, there's no parallax going on here, and that is happening because this floor is using this reflection probe that I added on the scene. Because reflection probe is like a static capture of the environment, it can't do the parallax effects that you can achieve by using the reflection plane. So to fix that issue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another reflection plane, but for the whole floor. But if I try to do that right now and I scale it out and I move it just a teeny tiny up, you can see that it's not working properly. You're still getting that wrong reflection here, and that is happening because this probe is influencing the floor. First we need to uninfluence the floor, so I'm going to do that just by moving this cube map just a teeny tiny bit above the floor so that it's not touching the floor or it's going below the floor. And after doing that, take the cube map. See, so we don't have reflection probe influencing this part of the image. Now I might be thinking that if I use the reflection plane for the whole floor, then what's the point of using a reflection probe in your scene? Well, we need a reflection probe for reflections on these smaller objects on your scene, like on this part over here, and also some reflections on these legs. And you won't get those reflections if you don't use a reflection cube map. And so just keep a reflection cube map on your scene. And because it's a room, so a box cube map would be a better choice. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another reflection plane here. Then I'm going to just move it up just a little bit. And as you can see, now the reflection of these window panels are properly done. Also, now that I added the reflection plane on this whole floor, we don't need a separate reflection plane for this part of the couch. So what I'm going to do, this one, I'm going to delete that. Now let's see a before and after. Here's the before and here's the after. See the difference in the reflections and how the overall scene has been looking a little bit more realistic. So here's the before, here's the after. Now let me quickly enable the normal map so that you can see a bug that I'm gonna show you how to fix. So I've just added the normal map. And now as you can see that these sides are kind of fading to white, and that's the issue with the screen space reflection. You don't need to worry about that. I'm going to show you how to fix this one at the end of this video. So let's add other lighting details to make this look more realistic. This part should be a little bit darker. So to fix that, you can do this approach that I use, which is I add another irradiance volume. I'm going to add a resolution of maybe 3 and on the Y to be 2. We got something like this. Then I'm going to scale it out to be something like that. As you can see, we added that one just for capturing the shadow underneath the couch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly give it a bake. Now, as you can see, this part is a little bit darker. Maybe it's hard to notice, but let me give a quick render. So this one is with the additional irradiance volume, and this one is without the additional irradiance volume. As you can see the difference if I switch back and forth. You see that we added some ambient light over there. Now you can do the same approach for all of the other objects in your scene if you have any. Like maybe let's say you want some dark shadows inside of this thing, so you just add another one of those inside of this and you'll have those dark ambient light. And but for this scene I think it's looking pretty fine, so I'm not going to add any of the additional radiance volume here. So after adding these ambient lights, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add these fake lights here. As you can see that these lights are not quite reacting too much with the ceiling here. So what I'm going to do is right about here, I'm going to add an aerial light. Select this one, go to selected, and I'm going to add aerial light. Move it. So I've added all of these 4 lights, and also one little thing that I can do is I'm going to move all of these lights to a new collection. I'm going to call it as fake lights. Then if I just turn it off, you can see the before and after. You can also add these fake lights on these sides, but these sides won't be visible on the camera, and I'm going to use a bloom effect, so I don't need to add those anyway. After that's done, what I'm going to work on is the shadow problem. As you can see on this photo frame here, the shadow is not quite right here. So now to fix that glitch, first of all, just hide one of these, okay? There are 2 lights, just hide one of them because both of them are contributing to this shadow over here. Let's say I'm going to fix the shadow for this one. You can do anything you like. Let's say you can enable the contact shadow or do any kind of trickery that you like, but it won't be fixed, and that is happening because this light is also contributing to this shadow. So if I just hide this light for a second, as you can see, just enabling the contact shadow for this light, it fixed the problem. And there's a general rule that I follow actually, and this rule is made by me. So it's like, try to reduce your contact shadow's distance as much as you can without having any kind of shadow problems. So as you can see, reducing it to 0 will lead to this shadow bleeding effect here. So I'm going to increase it to 0.1 and just leave it like that, okay? Don't increase it too much. I'm going to do the same thing for the other light that I got here. As you can see, it fixed the shadow problems there. So now we fixed all the things that's needed. Now if I try to give this scene a quick render, it looks something like this. Now there's a little bit of tweaking that you can do to make it look more realistic, and the first thing is the reflections resolution. As you can see that the reflection is quite blurry, and that's because in the screen space reflection settings we are using this half race option, and if I disable that, then the reflections resolution will be doubled. Let me give a quick render, and now if I zoom into the reflection, as you can see, this looks a little bit clearer. If I go back to the previous one, you can see it's blurry. Another feature that you can enable, which is blue. What it does is, okay, so here's the scene with the blue. Just look closely to these lights, and here it is without the blue. It just adds those light bleeding effect on these high intensity areas, and that's what it does. Also, you might notice that we have some glitches around these sides, and which is happening for the screen space reflection. And to fix that, what I can use is overscan. What it does is this whole view is gonna be output to the render. Then you will get these glitches on the corner. But if I zoom out a little bit, then if I render these area, which is inside of this camera border, and then crop it in, then there wouldn't be that white glitch here, as you can see. So to do so, what you can do is go into the render tab, go inside the film, and enable the overscan. And then there's the sides thing. You increase it to 10%, then this gonna zoom out 10% and then crop in 10%. So you want to get these. I'm gonna give it a quick render, and as you can see that there is no glitch now. If I go, as you can see, these things are gone. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something new, and if I missed something or if you have any kind of new tricks, tips and tricks to share with us, then please leave a comment below, and thanks for watching, guys.